Welcome to Strategic Management, Chapter 3, the External Assessment. So, as I've mentioned before, there are three main phases in this book, in this course. The first one is strategy formulation, which is about the strategic plan. The second one is strategy implementation, it's about actually executing the plan. And the final one is strategy evaluation, which is checking whether what we have done and what we have planned are actually aligned with each other. So as you can see in this figure, we are now in chapter 3. So we have developed a mission and a vision, so we know why the company exists and what its long-term orientation is. And now we need to go and do our homework. We need to do some research. And where is this research located? It's external to the company, it's outside the company borders, or the external assessment. So external assessment has to do with environmental scanning and industry analysis. So we need to go out there and see what is exactly happening. And why do we need to do so? To understand where our company could fit. How could we position our company in this huge, massive external environment? And when you gather this information, so when you do this external analysis, there are different tools and techniques you could use. One very famous one is the BEST analysis, BEST. This simply means that you categorize the information you gather into different categories like economic, social, cultural, demographic, environmental, political, governmental, legal, technological, and industry. So all the information you gather, you collect outside, you can organize it into different categories. So how can you gather this information? There are different sources, for example, the internet, libraries, your suppliers, your distributors, your salespeople, your customers, and your competitors. So there are several sources that you could use to gather information regarding your environment. And the best thing is to use multiple sources to prevent any bias, to prevent focusing too much on a single perspective when you are doing this kind of research. And these key factors, they may vary over time and they vary per industry. So if you've done this research, this external analysis in one particular industry, it might well be a completely different story in another industry. And even if you stay within the same industry, if you do the same analysis 2 years later, you will get different type of information because everything is changing all the time. Especially nowadays, the environment is very dynamic, we say. So the environment is not static or stable, it is very dynamic, it changes. So what does this imply is that this exercise of external assessment, it should be a continuous thing, not something you do once every 5 years. You should have a bunch of people or yourself doing this on a continuous basis. So some of the variables that you could look into when you're doing this kind of analysis is the market share. How is the market share divided over the different companies that are active in the field that you want to do business in? What is the breadth of competing products? How many different products are there available that compete with you? The world economies, how are the different economies performing? What is the buying power of citizens in specific areas you want to do business in? Is there any opportunity to do business with foreign partners? And how competitive are the prices? On the next slide, there are more examples: foreign competition, population shifts, aging society, and stock market instability. All of these variables are important to look into when you're doing this exercise of an external assessment. There's one particular theoretical perspective that is called the industrial organization view. So this is one particular theory. And as I mentioned before, every theory has its assumptions. The assumption of this theory is that the industry factors are more important than the internal factors. This theory says the performance of a company is more dependent on what's happening outside the company than what is happening inside the company. So remember, this is an assumption, and of course, this implies that there are also theories that tell the opposite. They say you need to focus on the internal capabilities, how you manage things, which is much more important than what's happening outside. So this particular view, the industrial organization view, upon which all of these tools and techniques and the importance of external assessment is based, says what's happening outside of the firm is more important than what's happening within the firm. So when we look at the level of the industry, so the group of companies and the wider network that contributes to the business landscape, what are some of the industry factors? The first one is economies of scale. Is it possible to scale your business, to sell your product to an increasingly larger group of customers? The second is barriers to market entry, which simply means how difficult is it to enter this particular market? The third one is product differentiation. Is it possible to offer a product here that's much better in quality? And the last one, level of competitiveness. How how many players are there within this particular industry? Is it you and two others, or is it you and 60 others? So how much competition is there, and how fierce is this competition? Some of the economic forces that are mentioned in the book that are affecting our part of the world is that more and more we see two income households in the Arab world. So where previously the father was working, was earning a living for the family, now we see that the mother, the wife, is also earning an income. The second point is there are uncertainties and fluctuations in oil prices. You know that is basically the reason why we now have Vision 2030, right? To diversify the economy into more of a knowledge-based economy. Trends in the dollar value, the high worldwide demand for oil, and resource poor, labor abundant rich countries in the region. So some of the Arab countries as Egypt, maybe also Morocco, there's a lot of labor there, a lot of people that are willing to do particular jobs that you can make use of if you are a company that needs a particular amount of labor or a considerable amount of labor. But regarding resources, some of these countries don't have a lot of resources. Well, they have agriculture, but they don't have resources as oil or gas, as is, for example, the case for this country. So in table 3.1 or 3-1 in your book, there are a number of key economic variables to be monitored. You can check these on the slide. We won't go through all of them now. For example, the fluctuations in oil prices, the money market rates, the unemployment trends, and so on. So all of these are under the category of economic variables to be monitored. So according to this perspective, it is important for firms to have a look at all of these economic variables before they start developing their strategic plan. Another category is the social and demographic forces. So we just covered the economic forces. A second force is the social and demographic forces, and these also have a major impact on the firm's products, services, markets, and customers. Some of the forces in the Arab world, we have a high rate of birth, big families. The youth segment is the largest and fastest growing. 60% of the population is under 25 years of age. The life expectancy has increased, so people are getting older and older. But there's also a widening gap. One group is getting increasingly rich, while another group is getting increasingly poor. However, over the long term, 2050, the aging group or the senior group will be considerably larger than it is now. So 25% of the population will be older than 60 years. And here's a comparison between countries. Let's have a look at the first one, Algeria. So how much percent of the population is currently 60 years or older? In 2000 this was 6%, and in 2050 this is expected to be more than 22%. Here are some other facts or forecasts, predictions regarding the world population and the Arab population. By 2012, the world population will approach 7 billion. The Arab population will be about 300 million. 2050, we'll have 2 billion people more on this planet, according to the predictions and forecasts. And in 2000, the amount that people were spending on domestic and international travel by Gulf nationals was about 34 billion US dollars. Some other trends in the Arab world: more households are living in urban areas, so people are moving from the rural areas to the urban areas, away from the places of origin where their ancestors or grandparents were established. And more people are getting higher education. So increasing number of Arab youngsters are entering into colleges and universities, and there's also increased travel. So many Arabs are traveling abroad. You may ask, what has this to do? What is the relationship between these trends and my strategy? If people are traveling abroad, they are having some exposure to Western products. So if they are familiar with some Western products, and they come back home, if you want to offer Western products here, there's a group that is familiar with the product and that may want to buy it from you. So all of these trends, have an impact on the decisions you make in your strategic plan. Regarding the natural environment perspective, it seems that the Arab countries are the most at risk when it comes to the negative impacts of climate change. And some of the impacted areas are water resources, the sea level is rising, the health of humans is deteriorating, obesity and so on. Food production, we need more food producers because the population is increasing. Tourism is decreasing because of the turmoil and the political instability, and the use of land and urban planning. So in this table, table 3-4, there are some examples of social, cultural, demographic, and environmental variables. Have a look at these on the slides. If you have any question regarding any of these forces or factors or variables, let me know. Then regarding political, governmental, and legal forces, some of the key opportunities and threats if you want to establish in any country is to have a look at the tax rates. How much tax are you expected to pay when you start your business or you develop a new business in a particular country? The lobbying efforts, how easy is it to influence government decision makers, policy makers? Protection laws, how easy is it to import or export products? And foreign direct investment regulations, how easy is it to attract foreign capital, or how easy is it for you as an outsider to invest in a particular country? And these political variables have a huge impact on competitive strategies and implementation of competitive strategies, because they offer you a framework, like limitations. How far can you go? What are you allowed and what are you not allowed to do? So these are considered constraints or limitations for your strategy. Some of the globalization trends is that there's a worldwide trend towards similar consumption patterns. McDonald's is known everywhere. Starbucks, these cappuccinos are flying, over the cashier's desk everywhere. So these kind of products are known everywhere. So this worldwide trends towards similar consumption patterns is an important one. Global buyers and sellers, e-commerce, and Amazon, Alibaba, and technology for instant currency transfers. These, of course, give you as a company more opportunities to do business on a global level. Table 3-3, some political, governmental, and legal variables you can have a look at. And then to a particular force that I'm very interested in: technological forces. The rate with which new technologies are being developed is absolutely high. You can have a fancy product, and within 2, 3, 5 years, maybe quicker, it has become obsolete because the next generation of technology is available. So it is definitely a good idea, if you are offering some product or service that's dependent on technology, to stay closely aligned with the technological developments within your particular industry, to prevent yourself from going out of business. So on the level of the industry, it's important that you collect and you analyze information on your competitors, because the competition sometimes is really, really fierce. So knowing what your competitors are doing and staying one step ahead is something that is worth investing considerable time and resources in, because they may be doing that for you. They may be closely watching you. So if you're sleeping, not paying attention, doing your homework, they may make a move that will significantly reduce your market share or even put you out of business. So if you analyze your competitors, have a look at their strengths, their weaknesses, their capabilities, opportunities, threats, objectives, and their strategies. So when you have identified who your competitors are, then gather some information on these points. Here are some questions you could ask. For example, what are their objectives and strategies? What is our weakness to strategic reaction, and so on. More questions regarding competitors. How many competitors are entering the industry every year or every 5 years? How many competitors are exiting the industry? What is the nature of supplier and distributor relationships? And should we keep our strategy secret from employees and stakeholders or not? And a nice example to have a look at the competitors in this industry is the electric car industry. I may have mentioned this to you before, but the electric car industry wasn't really spectacular a number of years ago. Have a look at this car. Is this the car that you would want to be driving in on the Hobart Corniche in the weekend? Is this the car you would want to be seen in? Well, I think that the answer is, no. This is not the most elegant or the car that will increase your market value. So this is basically the design of the electric car a while ago. Another limitation or weakness in this industry was that it took a very long time to charge the car. So this is again the industry of electric cars, cars that don't run on fossil fuel, they run on electricity. Oh, sorry, the cars that don't run on gasoline, they run on electricity. One gentleman that made use of these weaknesses is the entrepreneur called Elon Musk. He said, the electric car industry is a mess. We need to do something with it. So he came up with an electric car that has the looks, the aesthetics, the design of a sports car, and can be charged considerably faster. And also he changed something in the infrastructure. There are more and more points where you can charge your electric car now. So this man, after doing his homework, analyzing his competitors, analyzing the industry, he came up with a brilliant company to change the nature, the face of the electric car industry. And this is definitely a car I would want to be seen in. So it doesn't look bad. Here's one of the Tesla cars being charged. So you drive a car that looks good, you're not negatively impacting the climate, the environment. It doesn't get any better than this, does it? Alright, so one tool you can use to analyze the industry is called Porter's 5 Forces. So again, this is the brainchild of Michael Porter, the Harvard professor, and he came up with the following 5 forces that drive any industry in his model. The central one, the one in the middle, is called the rivalry among competing firms. So how fierce is the competition between them? The one at the top in gray is the potential development of substitute products. What is the risk of a product coming out in your industry that will make your product obsolete or less valuable, less wanted? The one on the right in pink is the bargaining power of consumers. So how powerful are customers in this industry? How strong is their voice to influence prices and policies? The one at the bottom is the potential entry of new competitors. How many companies are entering this industry? How attractive is it? How easy is it to enter this industry? And the one at the left is the bargaining power of suppliers. So the people that are delivering the raw materials, the input to your production process, how powerful are they? So the one in the middle, the rivalry or competition among competing firms, this is the most powerful of the 5 forces, and it focuses on the competitive advantage of strategy. So why are we doing strategy in the first place? What is the entire purpose of strategy? Is to have or achieve and sustain a competitive advantage. So come up with a strategy that gives you an edge over your competitors. So the potential entry of new competitors, the barriers to entry are important. So it shouldn't be extremely easy to enter an industry, because then your market share could become very, very small. if it's easy for any business to enter this business, you know, the cake or the pie that is there to be shared, is shared among a high number of firms, which makes it less attractive for you to stay in this industry. And your quality, pricing, technology, marketing can overcome these barriers. Substitute products. It becomes tougher when consumers switching costs decrease. So when it's easy for customers to switch to another product that's a substitute, it becomes more difficult for businesses. So this makes it even more important for you to think about how to increase your capacity and how to penetrate the market in a sufficiently fast way that you get the market share you need to facilitate future growth. Your suppliers, if you have very powerful suppliers, it's very hard to negotiate with them. They have a strong voice. Maybe the materials they are offering are very scarce. This, of course, gives you less power and less flexibility to determine your own prices. So one way to handle this is to do backward integration. So simply acquire your supplier. So now you have more presence on the value chain instead of always having to deal with these pesky suppliers that always want to influence you and shape your policies and strategies and decisions in the company, always meddling your business. You cannot. I'm not saying it's simple, but one way to overcome this is to actually acquire your supplier. You become your own supplier. Customers in some countries, customers are very, very powerful. Scandinavian countries, Northern European countries, and consumer power is the highest where products are standard or undifferentiated. So when can customers gain power? If it's easy for them to switch from one product to the other, if their rights are protected, if they are very important, if the sellers are struggling, if the demand is decreasing and the supply is on the same level or increasing, if the customers have full access to information, they can easily compare your product with other products, and if they have total freedom in whether and when they buy your product. So forecasting is not only important to analyze the environment as it is right now or as it was in the past. It's also to be prepared for what may be coming in the future, and there are different techniques you can use for that. So forecasts are essentially educated assumptions. No one knows the future, the unseen. No one knows exactly what it is, but there are some nice ways and techniques that you can use to do educated assumptions, like time series. You may have had this in your statistics classes. So there are quantitative techniques. If there is historical data and you see a particular trend, maybe you can extend this trend in the future. And there are also qualitative techniques. You can interview experts in the field. You can sit down with someone who has this specific expertise and interview this person and ask him, based on your experience in this industry the last 20 or 30 years, how do you think this industry is developing, and learn from this person, someone who's really knowledgeable and experienced. They may have a good idea about, a good sense of direction for that particular industry. Now, some of the global challenges faced by Arab corporation is to gain and maintain exports to other nations. At the moment, we are doing a lot of import. We are importing many products, but there is more and more attention for becoming more producing economies, and export our products to the rest of the world, and also to defend the domestic markets. So how can local suppliers, local businesses compete with the powerful brands of international businesses? Multinational corporations or MNCs, these companies are competitive on a global level, and at the same time they are able to respond to national trends. So as a company, if you want to be a powerful or at least a serious player on a global level, there should be an integration on a global level of your planning, your implementation, and your evaluation. Extremely hard to do, but there are some companies that have managed to do that, One of these companies is the company Dell. So one of the outcomes of globalization is that, again, we are seeing similar consumption patterns in different countries, different parts of the world, global buyers and sellers, e-commerce, the instant transmission of money and information. You can buy a product at the other side of the world and instantly pay that person through PayPal or another way, ideal, and the different ways you have now, possibilities to share information and transfer money. So uh, once you have collected the information of the environment, the external assessment, and you have categorized it, you can summarize it in the so-called external factor evaluation matrix, EFE. So within this matrix, you give a score to the organization response to threats and weaknesses. If the score reaches 4, then this response is called outstanding. If the total weighted score is 1, then the firm is not sufficiently responding to or utilizing opportunities or threats. Don't worry too much about these terms. We will do an exercise in class regarding the EFE. It's more important that you understand the factors that are used in the EFE matrix that we have just discussed than the actual weights and ratings, because these are quite subjective. You have to do some educated guesses, giving importance or weight to different factors of others. Another matrix is the competitive profile matrix, which is specifically focused at competitors. It compares your strengths and weaknesses with those of competitors. This is an example. At the left side of the matrix, you see the critical success factors. What are the most important factors contributing to company performance? In this example, advertising, quality, price competitiveness, management, financial position, customer loyalty, global expansion, and market share. At the right, you have the weight, each one of these factors, how important are they, and they should all add up to a total of 1 or 100%. And then you rate, these companies. There are 3 companies in this matrix: company 1, company 2, company 3. You give them a rating. The rating values are as follows: 1 means a major weakness, 2 means a minor weakness, 3 is a minor strength, and 4 is a major strength. So for each of these factors, these critical success factors, you give each company a rating. And then when you multiply the weight with the rating, you get a score. And as you can see at the bottom, what is the strongest firm in this particular analysis? It's the firm that has 3.15, which is company 1. So company 1 is the most competitive based on this competitive profile matrix.